Welcome to Desi and Company. I am pleased to be in the company with Miss Crystal Reeves. In 2002, Crystal was diagnosed with lupus. On August 13th, 2019, God blessed Crystal with a kidney.
Amen.
Recently, she celebrated her first kidney anniversary. Crystal, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Crystal, many people may not know your story. They probably have heard that you had lupus or have lupus, and that recently you celebrated your first anniversary after receiving your kidney. But I want you to walk us through the journey you took when you had lupus. So, basically, I want you just to tell us when you first learned in 2002 that you had lupus. Tell us, how did that affect you?
It affected me a great deal. I mean, time spent with family and friends, especially my children, sporting events, a lot of things that I was used to doing, I couldn't do no more. And working 40 plus hours, I definitely couldn't do that because I was so tired, great deal of fatigue, and had joint pains and would ache a whole lot. Sometimes I would ache so much I wouldn't even let people know. I just kept it to myself, but I would have a lot of joint pain.
So, what type of treatment did your doctor recommend when you found out you had lupus?
The first thing he tried was give me medications for my joint pain. After that, seeing that I worked, I was still having a lot of hair loss. He started me on 6 months of a type of chemotherapy called Cytoxin, and that's what they use to treat lupus. And after those 6 months, I was able to return back to work for a few years, and then it hit me again, and that's when I had to get on dialysis because at that time the lupus had damaged my kidneys.
How did it affect you being on dialysis? What was that like?
It was very, very hard for me in the beginning. I remember my very first treatment, just to look at the machines and the sight of the blood taken to the hospital, But after that, I learned to just live with it and just keep my faith in God because I was determined not to let being on dialysis stop me from doing what I wanted to do, stop me from living my life. But it made a great deal of change for me because I spent most of my time there 3 days a week, and I would be too tired once I left treatment to do anything. By the time you feel good the next day, it's time to go back the day after that. So it was a great deal of change for me.
When you were going through dialysis, were you the youngest person at the time there receiving it?
I was. I was the youngest one at the time.
Hmm.
I was for the first 6.5 to 7 years. I was the very youngest, and we had one other patient that came in maybe about 6 months before I got my transplant, and he became the young. He was younger than I.
Did you ever get angry with God after all you went through? Did you just ever just get mad with Him and just, wanted to give up at some point?
I wanted to give up at some point. I can honestly say that I don't think I got angry with God. I did question, because in the beginning when I was told I had to take dialysis, I refused. I refused until the doctor was like, okay, I give you 2 to 3 weeks if you don't start. And at that time I had gotten so swollen till I could barely walk. And I remember my oldest son used to have to try to help lift me up in the apartment we were staying in because our shower was upstairs, and I was so swollen. And that's when I decided I'm gonna have to take it. I had to take it for my children so that I could feel better and do better. But I wasn't angry with God. I did question, and I didn't feel like giving up until towards the end.
Hmm. We talked earlier, you shared your testimony with me about when you first, but first of all, let's go back. When did you first get on the transplant list?
I first got on it and I started dialysis in December 2011, and I started working toward the transplant in 2012. So after a year of being on dialysis, I started working on getting on the transplant list in Georgia.
And so you got your kidney transplant in 2013 in South Carolina. what was the difference in the weight compared to, you going to South Carolina? I know you said it took 4 months before
Yeah,
you
see,
got your transplant in South Carolina, and you had been on the list for Georgia since 2011.
since 2012,
Since
I had
2012. That's a long time.
that's a long time. Um, and I think that what I was told is that the population, and see, I had a cadaver donor in South Carolina. The population is larger in South Carolina, and they only in Georgia they only use one bank in which they share the organs. You know, they share that with Atlanta, Savannah, wherever there's a transplant center. Georgia only use one bank, and so they share it with different hospitals. In South Carolina, they have more than one bank where they have organs, and that's what makes the big difference. So being on all them years in Georgia versus 4 months in South Carolina, and here I am today, living testimony.
You are definitely a living testimony. Tell us about some of the nights prior to you getting your transplant, Crystal. How were the nights? Were they long? Were you in a lot of pain? Because sometimes people think they know what you've gone through, but they really don't know because you went through
Oh,
that for over almost 8 years. So tell us
yeah,
what were some of your nights like.
yes, it was 7 years, 8 months, and 12 days, and most of my nights was full of tears. You know, and I would have those when the children would sleep because I didn't want them to know. Excuse me.
That's okay. Take your time.
And right before I received my transplant, I had gotten two calls prior. My first call was July the 21st. I was actually on dialysis. And the clinic manager, the nurse, she came and lightly shook me. She said, Chris, you have a call. It's from the transplant center in South Carolina. And they tried to call you. And I had dozed off in the center because I would be up most nights, you know. I had dozed off in the center. So they woke me up and I called and they told me I was number 3 on the list. They won't let me know. And they told me about the process. If the first person they call is sick or running a fever, they'll call the second one. If the second one, they can't get an answer, they're sick or whatever in the hospital, they would call me and it would be for me. So by the time I got home a few hours later, they called me and told me it wasn't for me. So that kind of made me even more depressed. So that was on July the 21st. I got a second call in August. It was August the 10th. And that was on a Friday. And I got that call. And when I came home, I told my husband, I said, you know what? After the first call, I wasn't packed. So then I packed my clothes and I had them sitting up by my bedroom door. Everything was packed. And I said, well, I'm already packed and ready. They don't call me and I'm going on faith. We're going to go ahead and go to South Carolina and just wait for them to tell us to go to the hospital. He said, you sure that's what you want to do? I said, yes. So we went and we got up to the hotel. We was like 30 minutes away from Charleston because it was late because he got off after 7. We just went on, you know, it was nighttime. And when we got settled in, I received a call at 11 p.m. I'll never forget it. And they told me, Miss Reeves, this one is not for you. And I was in tears. I was devastated. I felt like I couldn't even go no more. I had gotten to the point where I always held my own sight after the needles were pulled, but my hand was getting weak. I was getting tired. So I felt like just giving up. When my husband went on to sleep, he prayed with me, said, it's going to be okay. Your time is coming. He was able to sleep. I wasn't. I didn't want him to know. And at that time, when I tried to sleep, it was like something was telling me, you're not going to get it. I know it was the devil because he wanted to stop me because God had something for me. The other cards weren't for me because that wasn't the best. God wanted to give me his best so I could do what he needed me to do. He tried to stop me and told me, okay, you're not going to get it. You might well kill yourself.
Mm.
And at the time, I don't know if you remember this, but in Washington County, it seemed like a spirit of suicide was just in the air. You
Mm.
know, you hear about different suicides, and I rebuked it. I went praying, praying, and praying, and we came back home. I remember not feeling like going to church because I felt so doomed. But that Sunday, I got to church and I got up and sung and gave my testimony. And the first thing I said, I will live and not die, and the devil will not take me out, will not steal my joy. And that was on Sunday. And I got the third call that Monday.
My
And
God.
that I got my transplant.
Mm. And you said that was my. Look how God worked it out.
Yes. And it was actually when I got the call, I had just took my middle son to college. And I told you I got called that Friday. And I told him he was walking us back to the vehicle. And I told him, I said, John, you know what? The best part of me not getting transplanted Friday is that I was able to bring you to college on today. And that was on a Monday, August the 12th. As soon as I got back to the truck, the phone rang. And it was a
Mm.
transplant. Saying, Miss Reeves, I know we done called you before, but this is it. I'll never
Oh
forget when she
God.
said, and I put the phone down. I got on my knees. I was praying and crying and shouting, and people around me was trying to figure out what was going on. And I remember when the kids' grandma said, well, she just got a call, she getting a transplant. So everyone that was bringing the children into college, they was excited and happy and celebrating with us. Yes, it was a glorious moment.
God orchestrated all of that for you. Krista,
Yes,
as a mother, going through that all of those years, I know there were things that you wanted to do with your children that you couldn't. How did that make you feel?
it made me cry a lot. It made me feel helpless, like I wasn't no help to them. But I know that I got my strength from them because they showed me nothing but love. And it seemed like, I mean, they was like little angels because they could tell when I wasn't feeling well, and they would just say, "Mom, I love you," and be there. Even my daughter, I have a disabled daughter, and most of the time, because the other two children would be at school, and when I would come from dialysis, my husband be working, he would sit to the foot of my bed and say, Mommy, are you okay? And would stay there. I would wake up from a nap. I mean, like a 2-3 hour nap. She'll still be sitting there. And she wouldn't leave until she knew I was okay. I would tell her I was okay when I wasn't, but she wouldn't leave until she knew that I was okay.
The reason why I wanted to interview you, Crystal, is because a lot of people, whether they suffer with lupus, whether they have another type illness or disease, whatever it is, a lot of times people don't know on the back end what people truly go through. And I
Right.
remember the moment when you told me, they found a kidney for you, and then you called me back and let me know that that wasn't the right one, and then all of a sudden, it was a quick turnaround. How God blessed you because you didn't give up, and so since you've been going through this, there's a walk that you host annually. Tell us about the lupus awareness walk.
Yes, I started that. This year would have been my fifth year. We canceled because of COVID, but we're gonna reschedule later in the year. But I started that to help others, and all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds we raise goes to the Lupus Foundation of Georgia, and it stays right here in the Georgia chapter to help those with lupus that are going through. You may lose your job, not able to pay a bill. All you have to do is call that foundation, and they will help you. They will give you some assistance. They will help you. That's what it's for. And I'm really proud about that because that's my baby. My pride and joy. I enjoy doing it every year. And the community donates. And we have what I really like is we have a lupus awareness t-shirt contest every year where people can design their own shirts. And we whatever donation we get, gift cards from Walmart, different places, we use those as prizes. And I really like to see the creativity with everyone when they do their shirts.
And one thing I like about it, I see that each year, your participants, the numbers grow and grow each year.
Yes, yes.
What are some things since receiving your transplant that you enjoy the most that you couldn't do before?
Spending time with my family, especially my only granddaughter, and giving back and working 40 hours. I now work at a dialysis center, where I'm able to try to inspire others and help others that's on dialysis, because I've been there. I know what it's like to sit in that chair for hours at a time. So I want to be an inspiration to those that are going through, and I like to donate back to them. You know, I started a Christmas drive last year. Something I'm continue to do. Last year we did blankets, hoodies, and gloves for every dialysis patient here in Washington County. And this year we're gonna do headphones. So I'm hoping we're gonna do all the patients again and maybe help other centers, nearby. So I just enjoy doing that. Just being helpful, giving and volunteering. That's my advice to anybody that's going through. Just try to find something to keep it off your mind.
And I can vouch for Crystal when you say giving back and always doing something to help people. You're always doing something to help people. Even when you were not feeling your best, you always were doing something to give back and to help others. What are some ways in which you are raising awareness, Crystal, about lupus? What are you doing now in a sense to give back and to help others?
Well, I reach out to people that are going through. I mostly do it privately because I don't like to, unless a person want to share what I've done with for them, that's fine. But me, I don't like to share it myself. But I reach out to people through the inbox if they're going through anything. I offer my assistance, my help, whether it's money, advice, or whatever they need. I want to be there for them. So that's what I do now. And and just be preparing for the next walk, because each year I like to make it bigger and better. And the donations are better. And that makes me proud because I know where it goes to, and I know for a fact it helped the patients, people that are dealing with lupus, because they helped me once I had my transplant. So, and I'm very proud about that. So that makes me even more eager to get back started and just give more and get out there and raise more funds.
That's it. And so for the person who's watching right now, who's had lupus, whether they found out today or they've had it for 5 years, what advice would you give to that person?
I would tell them to find something positive to do. I would volunteer with the rec department, basketball, try to coach. I wasn't the best player, but coach, I would do anything, and my main thing, I would tell them to trust in the Lord. Get a good church family, find you some scriptures to read. Trust in the Lord because He's gonna bring you out of it. Contact someone that have gone through it that can help you. You know.
That's great. And Krista, if you had an opportunity right now, because I know you know God is with you now, but if you were looking at him face to face, considering the journey you've been on up until now and how good he's been to you, what would you tell him right now?
Oh my God, I couldn't tell him thank you enough, and I would tell him to continue to use me so that others could see Him through me.
Amazing. Your story is so inspirational, and I'm hoping that again, whoever's watching, even if you're not going through lupus, if you're not, you were not diagnosed with lupus, even if you're not going through that, but it could be something else. I wanted you to hear her testimony so you can be encouraged to know that God is with you. He would never leave you. And just as well as that He provided for her and healed her, He can do the same for you.
Amen.
Crystal, I thank you for your time. I just really wanted people to hear. They heard just bits and pieces because I know early on you told me there was some nights you would stay up all night long and pray to daylight.
Oh yes, I had many of those,
And
and I would pray
so
God to tell me what He needed me to do, and
mm,
He would talk to me. He would talk to me, tell me things to do, and I stayed up and prayed all night. I wouldn't know it was daylight till I look up and look through the window and would see the light coming through.
mm, so inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And again, I know that your story is going to bless someone else. And that was the reason why I wanted you to come on today and to share it because it indeed is a blessing to me. And I know it indeed will be a blessing to someone else. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Desi.
Anything you would like to tell anybody who's watching and closing?
In closing, again, I say trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord because you will get through it. Whatever you're going through.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
And everyone, thanks for your support.